Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. This is the preview to the biggest game of the season. It is Napoli against Juventus, guys. So thank you for joining this live stream, everybody. We don't do these very often that we have a preview for a game, but of course, for the one against Juventus, it is an absolutely massive one. Not only because it's Juventus, but also because after a 6-1 win against Sassuolo, are Napoli back? Could this be the start of a colossal moment in the season where we take on teams, we get 3 points, and then for the next 10 or so games, we climb up that ladder? Is that going to be the case? We will discuss it together, not only between us two, but also between me and a guest. He is someone that has won the January Napoli Talk predictor game. So I will put him onto your screens right now, guys. Say hello to Michael from Sweden. Hello, Michael. How's it going?
Hello, guys. Hello, Dom. It's going all right, and it's a pleasure being here discussing the game, this big game against our rivals. So, yeah, it's an honor.
Yeah,
Thank you.
guys, it's a huge game, and we do have a guest from Sweden for I think the second time. There was another one at the start of this year, so I guess the game is quite popular in Sweden. So we, I mean, you guessed everything quite well in January. Napoli now is a very different team since then. They won 6-1 recently. What's your prediction? Let me go straight into the prediction for this game. What is your prediction
Ooh.
for this game?
Well, I gotta say what I put on the predictor game. It would be strange to change the result, but I think we have a good chance actually. Juventus have been solid all season defensively, but I think that they've lost that a little in the recent games, and we are on the way in the opposite direction. We're on the way up, and we're starting to create chances and so. So I think maybe 3-1 to Napoli actually, and I hope we take a lot of things with us from the previous games and adapt them to this game because Juventus they used to defend pretty good against us.
Yeah, guys. So Juventus not been the best of teams since Christmas, and that's that you bring up a great point. They are ahead of us in the table, but are they a better team than us at the moment? They have been struggling, and some of their key players like Chiesa and all that, they haven't quite performed this season. Last time around, we beat them 5-1. This year,
Yeah.
Georgie in the comments is saying 3-2 win. You know what, guys? I will put a poll. I will put a poll and ask you guys what you think the result will be. So I can only give you, for whatever reason, I can only put two options. So it's either going to be a win or not a win. So I know it's not the most sophisticated of polls, guys, but make sure you vote on this poll. Okay, it's good to know that the audio is fine. I'm just asking that because it's the first time I have a guest on one of my live streams. I figured out this morning how to do it. Michael, tell me how Michele from Sweden. Michele, you're now Michele. Michele, tell
Michele.
me why, how you are a Napoli fan. What's the story here?
Well, it's a pretty funny story. Like there are not many Napoli fans here in the north, but I actually started as a Barcelona fan when I was younger. You know, with the Messi, Xavi, Iniesta era, Eto'o, Ronaldinho. So when I was young, it's everybody in school was talking about Barcelona or Real Madrid or vice versa, But I didn't really see it as my own team. It was like everybody was cheering for them, and they were lacking some passion and some I don't know. I wasn't so satisfied as a supporter. And then I started to see, a team in light blue colors on the TV playing with such passion and clutching out victories with Cavani scoring in overtime, Lavezzi on the wing, Hamšík behind, and there was something that gripped my attention, and I started to embrace them as my team.
So you started when Mazzarri was there.
Yeah, I started when he was there. When he was throwing around his jacket and screaming, and that kind of gripped me. So from there on, I started to watch every game. And we entered the Champions League, and we started to become a greater team. And I was fully in love. I loved to watch them, and from there on, I have been watching them for now maybe 15 years or something like that, and even been traveling to Naples a couple of times and watching some games. So, and it really, when people, my friends, see Napoli on TV or they see an interesting result, they always think of me. So it's like it's really my team. That's how I feel.
And yeah, this is the thing about supporting Napoli when you're abroad, is that sometimes you're the only one in the friend group that supports them. So when things are going well, it's good. You have something to, brag about. But when things are going badly, then everything is, subject of a few jokes and a few,
exactly
things like that. You mentioned how you started when Mazzarri was there. Now I want to ask you, if you had to give a score out of 10 to Mazzarri round 2, what would you give it? Consider everything. Consider that he didn't have Osimhen. Consider the tough fixture list, but also consider that he took Napoli from 4th to 9th. So tough, but if you were his boss, give him a score out of 10.
You know what? The thing is, I don't think it was possible for Mazzarri to reach 8, 9, 10. Like, our expectations were not 8, 9, 10. Our expectation was, let's have some fun and maybe reach the 4th position. So I would actually give him a strong 6 or a 7 even, because like he did what we didn't expect a tactical mastermind. We expected some energy, some nostalgia, some getting the trust back from the fans. And I think we got that at some extent, maybe. He did what I expected him to do. Maybe struggled a bit more at the end when he got fired, but like it's my expectations were not higher than what he proved us. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, relative to what you expect from Mazzarri, like if you compare him to his ceiling, then maybe more or less this is like you should have known that this is what you were gonna get. To be honest, I'm a bit more disappointed in Mazzarri, just because I feel like there were games that he should have done better, like the one that we drew against Genoa and all that. Like, I think with 4 or 5 more points, Mazzarri would still be coaching this team, because let's face it, with 4 or 5 more points in the league, we would still be like with a really good chance of getting Champions League football. Now it seems like a very tough thing to do, especially with Bologna doing so well. I think someone mentioned it in the chat, Atalanta losing top 4 because they're losing 2-1, or they just lost 2-1 to Bologna. Bologna doing so well, Roma doing so well with De Rossi. But I just feel like if he managed to get a few points from the game, for example, against Genoa and a few others, the one against there was many others, then he would still be at the job. But clearly, it wasn't good enough. And I just found him to be like a very different coach from the first Mazzarri. You mentioned how before he was taking his jacket off, he was very, just giving a lot of energy out to the team like that this time. Sometimes I just always saw him like touch his heart. I don't know, like every match, this guy was touching his heart. I thought like this guy's gonna leave us anytime. Um, and maybe he just wasn't able to transmit the same energy. And then also from a tactical point of view, I think he confused the team a lot. The one thing he did really well is I think he brought this team back to a good athletic level. Like this team now is able to play 90 minutes, fully. And we saw it in the previous two games how we were just, properly pushing the whole time, even against Barcelona, so even against tough opposition. But yeah, I would say six at most, more
Mm.
like a five. But someone asked you, was it Napoli 41482 asked you, Michele, who do you support in the Allsvenskan League, the Swedish league? My team is in there is Djurgården.
Djurgården. Oh, no,
Djurgården.
no, no. They are rivals of my city. That's not good, Dom. And but it was brave trying to pronounce the league, Allsvenskan.
Allsvenskan.
Yeah, it's a very, very low ranked league. So I don't really actually have a local team, but I would say Gothenburg, IFK Gothenburg would be my team
Ah,
because they
Go
play close to me.
Gothenburg is a very interesting team.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting place. I don't know if you know this, but probably you do. But there's a very, very competitive youth tournament that happens in Gothenburg
yeah,
between like 12, 13-year-olds, where literally like the best football schools in the world, at least in Europe, that I know of, send their teams to this massive tournament in Gothenburg. And if I'm not mistaken, guys like Thuram and all this like played in that tournament
yeah.
in
That's true.
Sweden and all that. And I mean, I had I know a few people that made it to professional football that played in that league. Or in that tournament in
Yeah, yeah.
Gothenburg. So when I think of Gothenburg, I think of like, if I was a scout, the first place in the world that I would go after maybe Brazil and the favelas is probably Gothenburg. Um,
Yeah, that's true. It's called the Gothia Cup, and it's like the whole city become chaotic when all these teams and young players come. It's in the city. It's like full of people, and I've actually been working with jobs related to that tournament. So it's
oh
it's
yeah.
very, very big. Yeah, and
So
it's I
okay.
think it's a football team in Sweden that arranges it. So yeah,
Interesting. Interesting.
many
Yeah,
many
it's
famous
uh it's a
players from there.
it's a tournament I would have loved to play as a child, but unfortunately, the level is what it was. Um, So okay, let's focus our attention now. Let's go back to the Napoli Juve game, and but before that, someone asked, "Is this Higuain?" So
Higuain?
apparently you look like Higuain.
Oh, no, no, no. That's like swearing to me. You cannot say that.
Apparently
But I've heard it
Amsic played.
before.
Apparently Amsic played in Gothenburg. Could
Yeah,
be.
he played in EFK Gothenburg. Hamsik.
It it could, yeah, yeah, I didn't know that, but
True.
okay. Yeah, so it's a real football city, guys. All right. Let's see. Napoli Nation before we get to the Juventus one, let's get one or two more questions about you. Michael, from your visits to Napoli, what are some of your favorite places, food, things to do?
Ooh, favorite things to do. Actually, like my first visit, I visit all these famous places like Pompeii outside of Naples, and this did those kinds of things. But what I enjoy most is just hanging around in the city, eating pizza everywhere. Just going around, not really doing anything, just taking in the city and the people and the culture. It's actually something I've never seen before. Even if you go to other places in Italy, it's really something different in Naples. It's very cultural. Visiting that Maradona sanctuary, or what do you call it?
Oh yeah, of course, many times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it gives me goosebumps every time. So yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's become a bit touristy maybe
yeah,
recently. Like
yeah,
now it's like too crowded. Before it used to be that whole area used to be a bit more like, underground kind of thing, a bit
mm,
more, just something that a few people would go to. But now, ever since his death, it's like a real like touristy place. Like maybe
yeah.
maybe that has more visits than other things in the city. At least that's what it feels like. Uh,
That's true.
they ask, Tozar21 ask, who is your favorite Napoli player of all time except Maradona?
Oof, of all time. Wow. I would say Koulibaly.
Koulibaly?
Koulibaly was at one point I was like I love him. He's my player. When he was the best, it was maybe that season we took 191 points. He was him and Van Dijk were the best defenders in the world, and he didn't like he succeeded with every duel, every game. So he has the highest roof that I love the player, but then I don't know. It's between him and maybe starting to be Di Lorenzo actually.
Yeah, yeah. Di
Yeah,
Lorenzo is, the captain of the Scudetto team,
yeah,
right? Koulibaly is I think he's the one that, with a Napoli shirt, improved the most. Like, if
yeah.
you consider his level in his first ever game with Napoli and then his level when he left Napoli in those 8 years, like he went from a guy that a lot of people thought he's not good enough to play, a bit like how a lot of people are saying Nathan is not a good center back, to
Mm,
someone that you would put in your top 11 of Napoli ever. Him and Kim in defense, that would be your two center backs for sure. I mean, if
yeah.
you can go further back in time and um, you can
Cannavaro
put
maybe or
Kroll, Cannavaro, Ferrara, all these guys, but I mean, let's just stick to the last 20 years. You would put those two guys. And even then,
then
like Ferrara and Cannavaro and Kroll and all that, I don't think they reached the level that Koulibaly reached just because he was
no,
physically just at a different level. Cannavaro, for example, reached obviously the pinnacle of football with a Ballon d'Or, but not in a Napoli shirt. He did that,
no, exactly.
unfortunately, with Juventus of all teams. Well, actually, he was in Real Madrid when he won the Ballon d'Or, but that summer he was transferred from Juventus to Real Madrid, so he did half the season with Juventus.
And
Um,
also with the national team, right? He won the World Cup
with the
that
World
summer.
Cup,
He was
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
extremely
Lawrence
good.
Moore wants to trick you with a trick question. Let's see how much of a Napoli talk fan you are.
Try
And
me.
he asks, ask him if he knows about the Swedish player who Napoli signed that was the most expensive player in the world at the time.
Oh, I know who it is, but the name, I have a really bad memory. But I know Sweden has had a player in Naples that's. But it should be Cajuste. If it's a trick question, it should be Cajuste.
No, no.
At the time, okay.
At the time of the transfer, who was this is a guy that broke the transfer record at the time, and Napoli signed him in the
Oh, that's great.
1960s. So okay,
I don't
I
know.
guys, I will help him out. His
Madrid.
name
I
is
don't know.
Has Jepsen,
Ah, yes,
otherwise
yes.
known as the Bank of Naples, because he cost as much money as the Bank of Naples had in their balance sheet. So yeah, this is, and
Yeah,
I made a video when Cajuste signed for Napoli. I made a video about it. To be honest, that video, guys, I'll give you a little insider secret here. That video, didn't get as many views as I hoped. So if you haven't seen that video, then make
go in
sure
and
you
watch the
check it
video
out.
now.
Type Jepson Napoli talk, and then you will look. I'll type his name. All right, Has
If you
Jepsen.
su- if you support me and Sweden, you go in and watch Dom's video.
Yeah. All right, I'll put that in the chat. I
Good.
put his name, Hasse Epson, if you support Sweden. If you don't watch that video, guys, then you hate Sweden. Then you
We
are
are offended if you don't watch that video.
then you are offending our guest. Um, all right, all right. Let's go to the Napoli Juve game, okay? And the formations have come through. So I'm just gonna put the formations live on your screen now. You have Kvara, Osi, Politano up front, same ones as last time. Between them, they had so many goals and assists last weekend. The same midfield, Traore, Lobotka, and Anguissa. And then you have the back four of Oliveira, Juan Jesus, Rachmani, Di Lorenzo, and then in goal, Meret. The thing that changed here from last game against Sassuolo is Oliveira and Juan Jesus are replacing Mario Rui and Ostigard. Now, Michael or Michele from
Michele.
Sweden, tell me, these two changes, Oliveira and Juan Jesus, instead of Mario Rui and Ostigard, are you in favor or are you against? If we read the comments from, for example, Temeto, he just said, why Juan Jesus? You know, like, what is your view, Michele, Michael?
Michele agrees. I like the change to Oliveira. I think he's a wall defensively. He's really, really good. So he can take care of a wing by himself. But why do you take out Ostigard? We need someone who can win headers, who is physically strong, who is, we're not going to play the offside line as much. And that's his only weakness, if you ask me. He's not good, controlling the offside line. But duels in the box, heading duels, he's our best player. So I needed him. We needed him, especially for this game against like Vlahovic. So yeah, I'm questioning that change. But so it's 50-50. I like Oliveira, but I needed Ostigard. Or what do you think,
Yeah,
Dom?
yeah, no, I agree. I've been saying for a while now that Ostigard is, I think, our best center back. Like
Yeah,
I really don't understand how he doesn't get into the top two. Like I don't know. I'm very confused. Rachmani definitely made a big impression on me against Sassuolo, not only for the goal, but also because he started to take a bit more responsibility. I mentioned it in the video of that review. Juan Jesus, look, he made a big mistake against Cagliari, allowing Cagliari to score in the 96 minutes. Overall, he's not been that bad this year, if you think about it. But when I look at Ostigard, I look at the guy who's like our future, unless we decide to sell him. But what's the point of selling him if you're gonna keep Juan Jesus? No, like it doesn't make sense. Like to
yeah.
it doesn't make sense to keep Juan Jesus. You know, when you can just build something with Ostigard. And Ostigard, he's good with his head. He likes to take risks with passing. He's actually quite accurate with his passing as well. I really don't understand what the problem
No,
here is.
and let me ask you one thing. If you look at that starting 11, and if you think about the presence now and the years forward, who is our leader on the field? Who can you think is the leader that, with anger takes over responsibility and if we won 1-0 behind, I don't see any player doing that. But when I look at Ostigard, I think that maybe in 1-2 years when he becomes comfortable, he can be that player. Like,
Mhm.
we have no one. We had Spalletti from the sideline last year, but other than that, we have no one that wakes the team up when we're 1-0 down or when we're playing bad. The whole
Yeah,
midfield is quiet. Rahmani
yeah,
is no leader. We need that kind of fire in the team.
yeah. And I think, the thing about Juan Jesus is not so much that he plays bad because, okay, yeah, he has a mistake in him like everybody. It's not so much that, but really it's more the fact that because he's on the team, Napoli can't push higher up the field.
Yeah,
They can't play a high line because if the ball gets played over Juan Jesus, he doesn't have the speed to catch up with it. Whereas if the ball is played above Ostigard, he does have more speed than
Yeah.
Juan Jesus. He's also better at his header, so like he's taller, he's better, he can do much more there. But at the end of the day now, it's been Spalletti, it's been Garcia, it's been Mazzarri, it's been Calzona. All of them have put Ostigard as at least third option. So either they're all stupid, or you know, there's something that me and you, and I guess the most of Napoli fans can't see. I mean, I want someone in the chat, if you are listening and you are a big fan of Juan Jesus, to tell me like why, like give me a good,
Yeah. Give
like
me one reason.
I think he has great leadership, for example. He's a great person to have in the dressing room. He's experienced. He actually has a good left foot. He did a great through pass to Simeone against Fiorentina in the Super Cup. And like he's good, but it's just not good enough in my opinion.
Not to start
Um,
for a team like Napoli. To be a bench player, to be a squad player, yes, absolutely. But starting for the champions, I think he is nowhere near the level. And like you say, he limits how you can play.
yeah,
Like
and
he
and
limits how the
Gatti,
other 10 players can play.
yeah, and your mom, this guy called us your mom, not your actual mom, Michael.
Okay.
Your mom says we're really bad at headers. Last time we lost because of Gatti header last game against Juventus. So that also is something that we should factor in. The fact that Juventus does have good headers of the ball. They're playing with Vlahovic. If Vlahovic comes off, they put on Milik. Like they have Gatti. Like these guys are guys that know how to head the ball, and I would feel much safer with Leo Ostigard. You mentioned the fact that you liked though Oliveira being instead of Mario Rui.
Yeah. In this type of game where we're meeting, like they're gonna double up on each wing. They're playing 3-5-2. They're gonna double up on every wing, or they're gonna play a lot of crosses from the sides. Having Mario Rui there, uh, we can concede 1-2 goals only by having Mario Rui in the team. Okay, we limit ourselves offensively, but I think putting Oliveira there is the right call. He's very good at limiting the opponent on the wing. He even plays for his national team as a central defender. So he can. I think it's the right call, but it's gonna be harder for Kvara offensively.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the only thing
problem.
I was gonna say is that I think Kvara plays better when Mario Rui is there.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think I think Mario Rui and I think Kvara just plays better when there's more technical people around, like people that like to play, the nice, cute little passes with him. And Mario Rui is definitely, I think, better at that. I think even in the Spalletti days, he was the person with after Lobotka with the most accurate passes and everything. And he has a very good record for like when he's on the field, Napoli wins. And his
Oh,
agent always talks about it. The thing about Mario Rui is that from a physical point of view, is he able to withstand 90 minutes of playing against Juventus? Is he able to get those headers that he needs to get when the ball is played in the back post? And I think that's where Oliveira is better. Oliveira can guarantee you 90 minutes, so you don't waste the substitution. He can guarantee you a bit more physicality in corners with headers in the second post and all that if we have to defend. So I see this as a conservative move by
yeah.
by Calzona to play Oliveira. Then there's someone who asked you in the chat. Let me bring it up. Lawrence Moore says, "What's his thoughts on Cajuste?" So Cajuste is injured right now, right?
Yeah.
But from someone who I guess also supports the Swedish national team and maybe reads about Swedish players maybe more often than we do. What's your thought on Jens Cajuste?
I think he was very overhyped before he came to Napoli. He had like one good season in France, and we took the risk to buying him and try to evolve him as a player here. But I'm not too convinced he's gonna be. He's not a player that champions of Italy should buy and start as much as he has started. And I don't think he's gonna turn out to be like a great success for this team. So I'm not too convinced about his performances, and even when I look at the future, I don't think he's the one to do it. Yeah, and it's small things like tactically he's bad, physically he's bad. His passing skills are all right, but he seems so lost when he plays for us. So I'm not even with the Swedish bias. I'm not so convinced actually, sadly, because he's starting for Sweden in the national team. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
But my understanding was that before his move to Napoli, he wasn't actually a proper starter for Sweden. Like, it feels almost as if because he's playing for Napoli,
Exactly.
then they were like, oh, he must be good then, and so they started
Yeah,
playing him a bit more often, as
that's
opposed
true.
to him being already an established player in his national team. And I think, yeah, that says a lot because Napoli is not the type of club that always buys superstars, right? But the players that we do buy normally that I think end up playing well for us are players that at least in their national teams uh, end up like before they come to Napoli, they're doing quite well. For example, Oliveira was already with Uruguay,
Yeah,
quite stable. Kvara, obviously for Georgia, quite stable. Like all these
Kim.
guys,
Yeah,
even Ostigard to some extent was playing quite regularly for Norway, and now not so much because he never sees the field with Napoli. But yeah, with Cajuste, it's a bit of a strange one. Like, what's the Swedish press saying like is he at all like in hype in Sweden? Like, what do they see him as just like a regular player, or do they have good perception about him? Like, what's the deal in Sweden
the
with him?
the Swedish media likes to take small things and make them bigger than they are. Like, I'm a Napoli fan, and I know that, for example, Cajuste played so much because Anguissa was away at the African Cup of Nations, or Anguissa was injured. It was always someone in the starting 11 that was not available, so Cajuste played. But in the Swedish media, they say, "Oh, look at Cajuste, he's starting for Napoli." And people who don't follow Napoli thinks when they see this, they think, "Oh shit, he's very good. He's starting for the champions of Italy."
Mm.
And like you say, that's why he gets the starting in the starting lineup in the Swedish team. So if you watch, the more you watch of him, the more you know that he's not as good as the media present him to be.
Yeah.
So I think they're a bit misled by Swedish media here in the north.
Yeah, and obviously Georgia is talking about Kvara already being a hero for Georgia. I mean, Kvara is a bit of a different example because Kvara's Kvara.
He
Kvara is
is a
so
hero.
good. Kvara is so good. I'm actually
Yeah.
surprised that other teams they didn't put up more of a fight to sign him. It seemed like Napoli was like kind of one of the few teams. Maybe it was like a bit of Juventus, a bit of Tottenham, but I'm surprised other teams weren't there. But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's other players like Anguissa was playing for his national team. Lobotka was playing for his national team. Traore plays for his national. Like everybody before coming to Napoli was already quite established in their national team, and the fact that Cajuste wasn't just kind of goes to show that maybe
Mm, yeah, I get it.
if
I
you're
get
not
it.
starting for Sweden, maybe you shouldn't be starting for a team trying to win the Serie A. Um,
Exactly.
Also because Sweden at the moment, I don't think their midfield is, you know, the best in the like. It's not like saying, oh, he's English, so in the midfield he's got like Phil Foden and these like, you know, like if you play for one of those national teams or Brazil, it's like okay, fine, whatever. Like he's not starting for Brazil, but that's because there's 200 million Brazilians that are super good. But nothing wrong against Sweden, but it's just like facts, you know, like or
You're
France. France, like I mean, it's so hard to start France because they're so stacked with talent. But yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Sweden, the Swedish team doesn't even have any midfielders or
yeah,
central defenders. So you know, it's exactly like you say. It's
yeah.
not impressive that you play for the national team in that type of team.
Yeah,
Uh,
And Napoli Nation TV is saying, let's see how Cajuste does this summer in training, but he's been very poor. So, but what do you think? Like, do you think Napoli should even try to keep him next season? Should they send him out on loan? Do you think we should just sell him and move on? And, you know, because we've got other players, for example, Folorunshu, who's playing for Verona, who's on loan there. You know, he seems to be like Serie A level midfielder. Traore seems to be playing quite well. So should Napoli just say, okay, Cajuste, like we tried, it's not working out, and sell you, or do we send them on loan, or like what would you do?
I would, and if you was watching this, Cajuste, I'm sorry, but I would sell him. I think there are a lot of other players that you can see a future in, and I don't. Of course, he can improve, but I don't think he can reach that level that we need. And if we get some transfers wrong for the upcoming 1-2 seasons, we might lose that. We've been competing at the top for several years now. If we stop doing that and get miss out on European places and make wrong transfers and lose players, it can turn out really bad. So we're not in the stage where we can risk having players that we don't believe in. So I think it's better to sell him and try something else.
Yeah, and I think especially if Traore plays like he played against Sassuolo in these type of big games, like against Juventus, even in those 10 minutes that he showed against Barcelona, you know, like if he plays at that level, then you've already got potentially Zelinski's replacement. Folorunshu can come in. Then there really isn't a lot of space for Cajuste. Maybe because also Gaetano comes back from Cagliari, so at that point, you know, it might just be best to go on and sell him. Georgie ask, I'll ask again though, because he asked already one time. Says I'll ask again, Dom. Please ask Michael how it felt Kvara scoring 2 goals against Sweden while he was already signed by Napoli. It was 2 weeks before Kvara moved to Naples.
Well, I couldn't be too mad, right? I did, that was the thing that made him. I didn't know anything about him until those goals. So, well, I didn't know really how to feel about that. But yeah, I'm glad we bought him. So I don't feel so bad about him right now.
Yeah,
But at the moment, I was pretty mad, I think, because I think we missed out on was it the World Cup or probably the World Cup? We missed out on the World Cup, so it
uh,
wasn't too great.
oh, we Italians have experience of missing out on World Cups because of Sweden. So I guess, you know,
Yep.
what goes around comes around, eh?
Yeah, I guess
Um,
so.
right. I'm gonna ask you now something a little bit different. Napoli have decided to not to have any kind of um, pre-match conferences. You know, De Laurentiis has said we don't want to have 150 conferences a year. We need to focus on the football, and he just canceled that. No, and I don't know about you, but this is because we're in a pre-game, and I think this is a relevant topic because this is about pre-match conferences. Do you think that's fair that Napoli, limits this type of communication between themselves and the fans? And we enter such a big game like against Juventus, and we don't really know what the manager's thinking, and we can't ask him questions about, hey, how's this player, or hey, like, what's your view on Juventus, where do you think the biggest threats are, or like, is this, like, how do you interpret this? What's your thoughts on this whole situation?
I think it's pretty unprofessional for a big club like this to not have these conferences before a game, and I think you have an obligation towards the fans to kind of talk about those things before the game. And it's not like Napoli as a club are in a position to say, you know what, fans and media, we don't want to talk to you. It's like, you're having a bad season, take your responsibility, and even if it's tough and tough questions are asked, you need to do it. So I don't really see what they gain from this. Is it something I've missed, Dom? Like, what do they?
No, I think, I think it's just Napoli style, right? They don't want to, they don't want to hear criticisms about the work that they've been
Mhm.
doing. And I think it if they don't have anything to gain from it, if it doesn't bring more sponsors, if it doesn't bring more money, if it doesn't bring more, you know, then in the view of Napoli, it's like, why should I be doing this?
Yeah,
And
probably.
I think that as a club, in terms of how we communicate with our fans, with journalists, there's a lot to improve. To some extent, I kind of do get it though, like, because, and I hope some of these journalists are not listening in, but it's in English 20 minutes before the game starts, so I don't think they will be listening. But some of the questions that some of the journalists ask are just stupid, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
they ask like, so Calzona, like, are you excited for the game? And it's like his first game in charge before Barcelona. It's like, well, what do you think, man? Of course I'm
Like, you
excited.
have the
Like,
opportunity to ask, why
like
are you asking me a question like
yeah,
that?
it's like, imagine you have one. It's not like you're conducting an it like for example, me and you, I'm conducting kind of a little interview to you, So I know I have 20, 30 questions that I could ask you. And so one of them is a bit, just kind of setting the tone, and then I can get away with it, right? Or if it's a dumb
Yeah,
question, I can get away with it. But when your boss sends you to a press conference before a Champions League game, and you had all week to think of a question, and your question is, are you excited? Then it just shows like the
yeah,
level that some of these journalists are at. And then I kind of get it. Napoli's like, why am I bothering to spend time answering these questions? Like, this is just such a waste of time. I could be using these 30 minutes to prepare the team better, Like, I don't know.
yeah, I agree. If it's, in that case, I agree.
But
But
yeah.
it's like that for every team, I think, in every league. They ask the journalism, sport journalism is sometimes horrible.
Yeah,
So
it's at a really, really low level. What do you think? Let's go back to this Napoli Juve game. How do you think this
yeah,
is gonna play out? Like, is Napoli gonna go on the attack? Are they gonna defend? Like, is it gonna be a very cagey first half like we saw against Barcelona to some extent? Like the first 30 minutes against Sassuolo, where we had the ball, but we didn't really, hit them too hard? Or do you think, okay, we just won 6-1, let's go attack them, let's see what Juventus got. We won against these guys 5-1 here last year. Like, what's the approach in this game?
I think they're gonna start off very aggressive because the stadium is sold out. They're gonna run a lot, and it's gonna be a lot of energy. That's going to die out after maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll see how the game is going to play out. And I think Juventus are going to lay in a low block and counterattack.
Mm.
So I think we will have the possession, but I think Juve is gonna attack us, even though they don't have so much possession. Uh, it's gonna look a lot like the first game this season. back in, was it January or December, something like that.
Yeah.
And it all depends on who gets the first goal. Do we get the goal when we have this energetic period? Then it's going to be a lot easier for us. But if Juventus survives that period and can counter in 1-0, it's going to be very tough to attack them if we play like we've been playing this season.
Mm-hmm.
And all respect to Sassuolo, but that game doesn't really convince me yet that we are back. Even though I saw very, very good things, they kind of gifted us 4 goals.
Yeah.
So
the pressing that we put on them was, yeah, it was
amazing.
there, but it wasn't like the third goal, a third or fourth goal that
Yeah.
we conceded was like, really? Like you conceded
Yeah.
that goal? Like I get it that we pressed you, but like come on, like you could have done better, you know? So yeah,
So
Sassuolo showing their limitations for sure against us.
and when you press like that and you get a goal or a chance so easily, then you start to press more. It becomes easier to press. But when the better teams play around your press and it doesn't bite, that's how you see if a team continues to press or if it's just a one-time thing,
Yeah.
So we'll see how the first goal is going to set the tone for the entire game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you say that, right? But Napoli have shown that even if they concede the first goal, they recover. Like we did it against Barcelona, we did it against Sassuolo. Like if there's one thing that I know about this team is that even if Juventus were first, I think they will have some kind of reaction. They might not score, they might not be able to, but throughout the season, no matter who was the coach, I felt like they at least gave it a go. Like they're not a team that concedes once and then loses 5-0. Like that's never happened to us this year. Like the games that we did lose quite badly, like for example, the one against Inter, I feel like those 3 goals by Inter were kind of lucky. The other two because one came super late, when the game was pretty much over. One was a counterattack when we were, but it's not like we just gave up, right? Like we were trying to recover the game. Welcome Orlando Gelves. Hola amigos, recién me suscribí. Abrazo desde Colombia. Forza Napoli.
Oh,
So, yeah. Hola amigo, ¿qué tal? Desde
hola, amigo.
Colombia.
Zuniga fan, maybe.
Zuniga. Zuniga, it's true. Or even,
Yeah,
I think Armero used to be Colombian.
Armero and Duvan Zapata, right?
Zapata, sí, Zapata
Yes.
was also Colombian.
Yeah.
Bueno, amigo, dime, ¿qué tal? ¿Vamos a ganar hoy o qué? Dime. Let's see. Solo are just shameless as Maximus, especially with Berardi now. Yeah, he got injured, and it's unfortunate. I just also want to say, like, if we do end up scoring first, what is the approach there from Calzona? Is this Napoli team a team that should keep on the attack, just keep going, as if it's 0-0, keep going, keep going, keep going, even risking something behind? Or is this a team that, okay, you score 1-0 against a good club like Juventus, let's slow the tempo down, let's just pass it like kind of uselessly in the midfield and defense, or even, do we give the ball to Juve and like park the bus and just try to resist? Like, what do you think Calzona will do and what do you think we should do?
Normally, I'd see us to continue the way we play offensively. Try to score again. But against Juventus, it's kind of a moment where we can set them up for a trap, because if we force a team like that to lift up the back line and try to be offensive, then I think Osimhen and Kvara can punish them. When we make them uncomfortable playing more offensively, I think they're much worse playing like that. You've seen the last 2 or 3 games, they were conceding 2 goals every game against Frosinone, against, I think it was Hellas Verona maybe. So I think it's an opportunity to trick them a bit and fall back, but not too deep, and not just cleaning the ball. Like, try to find Osimhen, try to create chances, and maybe we can start doing that in the 60th minute, and not in a 20th minute. So
Yeah.
it depends, but I would like us to play smart.
Yeah, Georgie is saying the midfield will be important, and I 100% agree. But I love your point about sometimes not having the ball could be the best way because we do have guys that on the counter attack are deadly. Like we've
Yeah,
seen it with Kvara against Sassuolo, the goal that he scored where he took the ball from the center, went all the way forward, cut inside and scored. We've seen it how he did that against Atalanta last year, that amazing goal. That was
yeah,
also a fast transition. And it's something that I actually said a lot over the last few years is like, I don't understand why when teams that like the ball, like Napoli, like Barcelona, like these teams that really like the ball and they're finding it super difficult to break someone down, I don't know why they don't just for 5 minutes just say, you know what? We don't want the ball now, and give it to the other team. And I know it's super risky because when you don't have the ball, it means the other team can score.
yeah,
But if you can resist, one or two crosses and then counter them, and you've got guys like Osimhen and Kvara, maybe it's worth the risk of
yeah.
of doing that, and invite the other team to attack you, put men forward, and then boom, counter, like super risky. It might not work, but I would love to see it tried a bit more often, to be honest, as
I
a
agree.
as a
Like
tactic.
it feels like a different sport. Like when you sit back like that, it's the easiest way to defend. Every team can do it. Look at I don't know if you follow Premier League a lot, but look at for
Yes.
example Manchester United, and like when they play better teams, they sit back and they can compete with these better teams. But as soon as they play worse teams and they have to control the game, they get demolished. So it's easier to lay back like that. So maybe we should do it when we get the opportunity to do it a lot more,
Yeah, I
like you say.
agree. I want to ask. So I think there's a Juventus fan in the live, which is good to see. This is Napoli talk, but I invite everybody to join, even if they are Juventus or Milan or Inter fans, as long as they're cool. He says,
Mm,
as a Juve fan, we are bad, we won't win, but I want to ask him why. Why does he think that, and what he thinks Juventus's biggest problem is. So if he can type that down, then that will give us some good insights from the enemies. What do they think their
okay.
biggest weakness is? So that would be cool.
Uh,
Kesa's back.
yeah.
Kesa's back. Yeah, let's see. Kesa, he's not been super good this year. And Chub says the
No,
the biggest problem is Allegri. That's hard to fix. He's there. The biggest problem
he's
is
a winner,
Allegri.
but yeah.
Yeah. And the players too. We need someone like a Thiago Motta and 5, 6 starters to compete next season. Yeah. Well, Thiago Motta, it's an interesting thing that he says because it seems like the entire Serie A wants him. I can totally see
Mm,
Juventus, Napoli, and Milan all wanting to maybe try to engage Thiago Motta. I think he made it very clear that he's not coming to Napoli, but I
yeah.
do wonder if he sees Juventus as something for him. But at the same time, guys, I mean, right now,
They're in
Bologna,
second place.
Bologna is
So
is is in second, is in fourth place.
fourth place.
So yeah, let's bring up. I'm gonna bring up the. Let's see here. I'm gonna bring up, guys, where Bologna sit right now in the league table, and you guys can see that Bologna is, where is it? Bologna is, let me see. I don't know. Bologna Bologna beat Atalanta. So if you guys look at the standings, you have Bologna with 27 games at 51 points, just 6 behind Juventus, who obviously play now in 5 minutes. But they are 4 points above Roma, and they are 5 points above Atalanta, and they are 9 points above Fiorentina, 11 points above Napoli and Lazio. That is huge work by Thiago Motta. And look at that. they won 5 of their last 5 games. And if we look more into detail, they won against Atalanta, they won against Verona, who are in a battle for relegation. They beat Lazio, another team fighting for top four. They beat Fiorentina, another team fighting for top four. They beat Lecce. They beat Sassuolo. They tied Milan, fair enough. Surprisingly lost against Cagliari, but I mean, since the end of January, they've been incredible.
Yeah, it's an incredible season they have, and it looks like they're going to play in Europe next season. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I would have never thought that about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, and someone, I think Maximus asks, Bologna never made it to the Champions League before, correct? I think they did, just not because I know this, but because I Googled it. I asked my good friend Google, and they said that Bologna has 32 appearances in international competitions, one of which in the Champions League / Coppa dei Campioni, like Champions Cup, how it used to be called. But I wonder in what year that was. Let's see. What year was that? That must have been ages ago.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember Bologna being anywhere near the top, like
Right?
1964. Guys,
Wow, what a story.
1964. That is madness, It would be their first, or Chobe saying, I think it would be their first UCL appearance since at least the new UCL 1992. Yeah, 1964, actually. He says, I want Bologna to finish top four, but if they do, they need to keep their top guys. Otherwise, it would be terrible for Serie A. Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
That is what I would hate is that they get top four and then they sell all their players, because it would just hurt Italy as a whole, and it would hurt the league especially if these players leave Italy, right? Like if they go to other Italian clubs, fine, okay. But if they go to Bayern and the Premier League, and it's just,
Yeah, and Bologna like finished last, and hurt Italy's coefficient. What do you call it? The point you get for the league, coefficients points, or what do you call it? Yeah, that's not good.
yeah,
That would be bad.
yeah. Question from Maximus: If Bologna get top four, do you think Motta is leaving them, and what would be the percentage chance of him leaving if they get
100%.
He's leaving even if they get top four, you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
There are so many clubs in Europe that are losing a trainer next season. Barcelona, I'm not saying he's going to go to Liverpool, but a lot of big clubs are losing their trainers and they're looking for something. Even in
Yeah.
Italy, like Juventus is going to look, Milan is going to look,
Yeah.
we are going to look. So it's 100% that he's going to leave.
Yeah.
PSG maybe will take him if they, you never know, but he's going to leave. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. All right, man. The players are coming out. We are gonna start the game. I want to thank Michael and all of you guys for being on here. We will see each other 20-30 minutes after the game. As always, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Dom. It was a pleasure, and I hope we win this game.
Yes, and as always, Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao, everybody.